continuing to stay on the grind. Keep your vision real tight, then your future be bright until the finish line.
Good morning, Living Your Life Without Limits family. Happy New Year. Today is 2020. We made it. So excited for you to join us with our first episode today that's called Planning on Purpose. And I have a special guest in the studio with me today. Her name is Beth Farar.
Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year 2020. Woohoo!
Thank you so much, Beth, for being with us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my special guest today. Beth is a 23-year marriage family therapist. She is licensed. She also has specialty in psychotherapy, as well as drug and rehab and mindful meditation. Some fun facts about Beth. She is a dog lover. So all of you that love dogs, this is your girl right here. Also, what I really found was a very fun fact in her background. She has been in the entertainment industry. Beth used to be in the radio industry, and she used to be a newscaster in the Malibu area back in the day.
Yes.
Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I couldn't think of a more special way to start my day.
Oh,
and yes, I am a dogaholic. My therapist has a wet nose.
Absolutely. What is your dog's name?
Her name is Quinn.
Okay.
And I rescued her in August during a very challenging time in my life, and she has brought me so much joy.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I remember my daughter used to have a dog called Lucky. And when she first bought the dog, I was like, I don't want to be bothered. And before you know it, it was my granddog.
Yeah.
And I was going with her with Lucky and buying clothes and doing this and doing that. So dogs can be a great comfort and a great support.
And that's a great name because the words we use, the names have a lot of value in our life. So the name Lucky is very powerful.
Absolutely. So today's episode is talking about planning on purpose. It is the new year. And one of the things that we wanted to do was first start with getting our minds right, being in the right mental space to be able to reach our goals and our vision for 2020. So today, Beth's going to walk us through planning on purpose and how to set the tone going into 2020. So the door is open to Beth.
Thank you.
Take it, Beth.
New year, new beginnings. And I think it's very important to live life with intention every day when we wake up, to have that intention. So I always say in life, it's just a dream floating around, but the magic happens when the pen hits the paper. And that's when your dream becomes a goal. Oftentimes people get discouraged because they set themselves up to goals that maybe they feel are unrealistic. I'll give you an example. Say someone says, okay, it's the new year. I'm going to fit into my jeans that I wore in high school. I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 2 months. And maybe if they don't, they feel discouraged and they feel unhappy and they don't achieve it. They get really bummed out of themselves and the mountain just seems too hard to climb. So they just blow it off altogether. So what I think is important is to set up really realistic goals. How about I'm going to start taking better care of myself? I'm going to, you know what? I'm not going to have dessert all week. I'm going to start buying healthier foods, but setting up realistic goals that help you succeed.
So taking baby steps.
Exactly, baby steps. Because even if it doesn't feel like it, though, I really believe the universe, God, your higher power, things are always on our side and working for us. But baby steps are very important to set yourself up for success.
So thank you for that, Beth. I think that's very critical that we have realistic goals and that it makes sense to what we want to accomplish. But you got some people that may be out there that say, I've heard that, been there, done that. What are we going to be able to give to the audience some practical tools that they can take with them starting the new year? How do I begin to set goals? How do I begin to plan for the future?
Well, the most important thing is to believe in yourself. Mark Twain has a quote that I love. If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. Either way, you're right. So I think in believing in yourself, a good way is to start with daily affirmations. You know, I am, I can, I will. And I like my affirmations to be things about myself that are powerful and positive that I believe, or possibly things that I'm striving for. And you can even add those affirmations to your cell phone with an alarm, and they can go off in the morning. They could go off at night before bed. Maybe I am worthy. I can do this. So it's really important to start having those affirmations, those goals. But if we don't believe in ourselves and learn to love ourselves, we'll never get anything done. And that's where it really starts. It all starts with you.
So in your learning, obviously 23 years, you've embodied with a lot of knowledge. What in the psychology world does purpose mean? What is the definition of purpose in the academic setting? What does that mean for someone?
Purpose is something that, you know, we all have a different purpose. I believe that every person on the planet is born with a God-given purpose, or whatever your higher power may be. But it's not like, well, you have a purpose and I don't. Every single person out there in this world has something. And when you are in your purpose is when you feel energized, when you feel alive, when you have a zest for life. Something inside you just clicks. It's an intuition. Your purpose cannot be something that your mom wants for you, or your dad, or your husband, or your wife, or your kids. It has to be something from within. I'll give you an example. Finances, you know, we all want success. That will give you options, but you can never buy your purpose. Your purpose has to come from within, and it's what moves you. And when you're in that purpose, when you're in that flow, you feel alive.
Beautiful. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute.
Please do.
So
bring it.
Going into the new year.
Yes.
Last year for someone, maybe it was so-so. Okay, I made it. I didn't have any major highs, no major lows, but I'm stuck. I know there's something in me that I want to do different. What are some key things that I can do to help bring me to identifying what my purpose is?
Well, I think you hit on something very important. I feel stuck. A good question to ask yourself is, if I feel stuck in my life, what can I do differently this time? And when it comes to finding your purpose, what moves you? You know, where do I want to be? Do I have a special love for children? Do I have a special love for animals? What excites you? We all have to have something that we wake up in the morning and feel good about. Like, I have a love for animals, and, you know, my purpose is I love to help, you know, animals, people, but maybe one day I'd like to have like a ranch rescue of dogs. But I feel like that is my calling. And your purpose will tug on your heart. It will tug on you. And it's really important to listen to it and pay attention to it. And, you know, you do what you love, and the money will come. You do what you love, your purpose. But you can have your career and your purpose. You can combine the two. But it's so important to live a life that feels meaningful to you. We all want to have a life that feels meaningful to us.
Excellent. So there's a lot of discussion on the benefits of having a vision board or vision plan. Depending on who you talk to, they call them vision boards, vision plans, also action plans. Let's talk to me about what are the steps to creating a vision.
I'll give you an example. See this necklace I'm wearing?
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I made it. It says trust.
Wow.
And I believe that sometimes we want to do something tangible to create our purpose and our vision. A lot of people do vision boards, which I think are incredible. But sometimes when we set big goals, people get discouraged. So what I like to do is I like to pick a word that I'm going to focus on.
Wow.
So there's all kinds of great words. There's words like, last year my word was grit, you know, working hard and grit. This year it's trust, because despite life's challenges, I'm going to trust that everything's going to be okay. Because I've come to realize, which I like to teach people, that oftentimes when things fall apart and crumble, that's really just preparing you for the expansion. Life is like an arrow. Have you ever felt that when things pull you back, it's really going to launch you into something good.
Excellent. Well, it's a beautiful necklace. What's the backstory of that necklace? I understand there's a backstory.
My girlfriends and I got together a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about our vision for 2020, and we all had different words, and mine was trust, but, we had words like, love or hope or things that we want in our life. So when I'm feeling frustrated, because even though I'm a therapist, I'm just as human as anyone else. I get anxious. I try not to be a worrier and more of a warrior, but I'm human. So I just want to trust that everything is going to be okay. And I just hold it and I focus on that.
So each of you made your own word and your own necklace.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So even with the vision, it could be a vision individually, or it could be a vision for your family.
Absolutely.
Or for your organization. I mean, I've came from healthcare 28 years going into 2020 as a registered nurse.
Thank you.
Many of the organizations across the country, the first thing they have is mission and vision statements. What is it that they want to become? And a part of that is visualizing, as you said, having a mental picture
Yes.
of what you want to become. Talk a little bit about that.
It is very important to think in pictures, not necessarily words. I mean, yes, write down your goals, write down your dreams, write down your aspirations, but most importantly, see it. See it, picture it. What are you doing when that dream is coming true? When you're getting that, that something with work, when you get that promotion, or when you're doing something you love, what are you wearing that day? Who is there? Because it all starts here. I mean, it all starts here and here. And I believe that we are limitless. Perfect for our title of the show. There is nothing that human beings can't do.
Absolutely.
We all can do anything that we set our minds to. But if we don't believe in ourselves, it will never, ever get done. It is so important to honor yourself and love yourself. And I'm a big advocate of self-care. Self-care is key because we need to nourish ourselves. And in order to grow, we need to constantly take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. So here is a couple of summary thoughts that I like to run through with you, and you give me the explanation of each of those as takeaways for our guests, our audience that's listening. So the first one, the title is called Activate Your Vision. Mm-hmm. So this is what we need to do. These are 7 things that we need to do to activate your vision. I'm going to call them out, and I want you to break down each of them for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, the first one is heal from the past. What does that mean?
I would say every individual has some kind of trauma in their life, and there is big T, and then there's little t. Big T could possibly be like a rape or some kind of physical abuse. It could be a car accident. Little t could be little trauma, maybe a parent that wasn't kind to us, that we got put down, maybe growing up in a house that felt like passive aggressive. So every human being has some level of trauma that we need to work through. So I'm a big advocate of therapy, clearly.
Yes. And I understand you also specialize with dealing with people with past trauma. So.
Yes, exactly. So we all want to deal with the unresolved trauma in order to thrive, in order to heal. And that's when our breakthroughs happen. And I don't even necessarily think to people that maybe aren't struggling so much. I still think to have a safe person to talk with is always so helpful. Because, life comes with curveballs.
Excellent.
So.
Excellent. The second one is change your perspective.
That's really important. Oftentimes, unfortunately, our brains are so quick to go to the negative. Do you ever feel like sometimes people can get a bunch of compliments, but they only remember the negative things?
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, our brains are more wired to that. So in order to love yourself, it has to be daily practice. Louise Hay, I'm a big fan of her. God bless her. She passed away a few years ago. But she wrote out different ways to love yourself, and I follow those. And a lot of those are about forgiveness of people of the past. So it's so important.
When it comes to change your perspective, a lot of times I have a quote that I say, correct your lens, your vision. Because sometimes what we see or perceive it to be is not what it is. But it's our perception of it.
Yeah.
A really good example, sometimes we'll assume somebody is upset with us because maybe they didn't speak to us that day. But maybe it's just that something's going on with that individual. It has nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
But automatically we become on the defense, and the energy changes within us.
Yes.
And therefore changes the energy in the room. So that's
why
a
it's-
real powerful one.
And that's why it's so important to have clear communication, because we could have an argument going on in our head that never even took place.
And how you perceive yourself. It starts with your perception of you, because it doesn't matter what someone else perceives. If you perceive good for you, intelligence, strong, beauty, that's going to be exuded in your communication,
Absolutely.
your relationships, your interaction. So it's so important that you have a good perception, a good outlook in where you see yourself, a good outlook mentally
And
physically,
absolutely.
emotionally.
And when people are being unkind, it's has nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
You know, everything, what they say, how people treat you is none of your business, because it's how you react. But really, when people are struggling, they often aren't kind. I'm not making excuses. but
This is so
and
true.
we take things personal. We think, oh my God, me.
We could do a whole episode just on that. But one of the takeaways is that I can't control, for example, I can't control how Beth treats me, but I can control how I respond to that treatment. And we have to own what we can do, and we don't necessarily have to respond negatively, even if negative energy comes to us. Very good.
There's two things in life I know these two things I can control, and that is my attitude.
Yes.
That's one thing I can control. I can't control if there's traffic going on. I can't control earthquakes or rain, but I can control my attitude and the energy I bring to the room.
Excellent.
That is two things that I can always manage.
Change your perspective is a loaded question there. Okay, number 3, have a spiritual foundation.
It is very important to believe there is something bigger than you. Some people believe in God. Some people say, the universe. I mean, your higher power can be a tree, nature. Some people always connect with organized religion, but they say, I feel connected, a spiritual connection when I'm in nature. And I think it's very, very important to believe there's something bigger and greater than us.
And I think it keeps you balanced.
Absolutely.
I myself am a Christian, but there's some people that may be listening may not be a Christian, and I'm not judgmental about that. But you need a spiritual balance, something that keeps you centered,
Of course.
with everything that's going on. So that's a very important one there. Practice self-care.
That's very big.
Yes.
Yes. So self-care, it's very broad. I'll give you an example. I mean, you can eat organic and healthy foods all day long, but if you are in a toxic relationship, you're not necessarily healthy at all.
That's true.
So being healthy has to do with what we put in our bodies, who we interact with, our relationships. We want to have healthy relationships with people, good communication. And, you can't have a healthy mind without a healthy body. And you can't have a healthy body without a healthy mind. They're
go
so
together.
interconnected. Funny story about stress. About a year ago, I was going through some personal struggles, and I had just bought this beautiful brand new bedroom set, which I just loved. I could not sleep. My back hurt, my neck hurt, I ached. And then I almost returned the bedroom set. But actually, it wasn't the bed at all. Once I resolved my issues, I started sleeping like a baby. So that goes to show how powerful stress is.
Yes.
I had knots, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this bed, what's wrong with this bed? But really, it goes to show, because when we are stressed out, our neck hurts, our back hurts, we feel depleted. So it's important to just check in with yourself every day. Every day, what can I do to take care of myself?
Excellent. And being a healthcare provider, as I said, I've been an RN since 1992. One of the things, shout out to all my RNs and LVNs and CNAs. I was
So
a
much
CNA
respect for
at
you.
16 years old.
Oh, my
so I've
God.
done that role as well. But one of the things I know with all healthcare providers, we're givers, we're nurturers. And we tend to give not just to our patients or our clients in the healthcare setting, but everyone else. We just want to give. We want to help them. We want to fix them. We want to get them well and get them whole. But one of the things that I am learning and continuing to grow in, that I can't forget about me.
So
I have to
important.
make sure I'm healthy, not just like you said with diet or weight or mentally, but having enough rest and self-love.
Absolutely.
Making sure I'm doing some things that bring me fulfillment. Because just like you gave the example about the bed, sometimes when we are not taking care of ourselves well, our communication and interaction is off because we're tired or we're burnt out or we're frustrated in life because we're not taking care of ourselves. We're so busy putting out.
Yes.
And for caregivers all over that may not be as a licensed professional, but just caring for sick loved ones
Yes.
and caring for sick parents or single parents. I was a single parent for many, many years. You still have to find time to care for yourself.
It's a
As a
must.
matter of fact, you should start with you. And as you are filled up,
Yes.
you can then give out more and give it out with ease and not frustration.
Of course,
So
we
that's
don't want to
important.
operate from an empty vessel. It is so
Absolutely.
important. And I see that a lot too with therapists and nurses. That's our
Yes,
nature to
yes.
give. And we can struggle with codependency. And it's so important, like you said, to reflect on that and how to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And you know what is really another important tool I realized? We live in a world where everything is instant. We get a text, we get an email. Everyone feels so quick to respond. Everyone's like functioning on now o'clock. And I think if we just took a deep breath and just like waited a minute, I think it's our innate nature. People want to be liked. So when someone asks you a favor, it's like, yeah, sure. And then later on, you're like, oh, what did I get myself into?
Exactly.
So it's okay to pause and take a deep breath and say, hey, let me get back to you on that.
Excellent. We're almost through these questions.
Oh,
The
okay.
next one is stay active and focused on the plan.
Yes. Breaking everything down in little steps, whatever your plan may be. Like say your goal is to have better health. I'm not gonna buy any processed food this week. How's that? I'm gonna just eat really, really clean this week. And I'm not gonna be so hard on myself because life is a balance. Too much of anything can be a negative. So life is a balance of pushing yourself to be your best, but also being forgiving and kind to yourself and knowing that we're all works in progress. It's progress. It's not perfection. There's no ceiling. We're always growing. We're never done growing. But does that make sense? Push, but just be okay.
Excellent. The final question. Don't just think in words, think in pictures. Visualize yourself being in that moment.
Yeah. I had mentioned earlier about visualizing whatever it is you want to make things happen and writing it down. Also to telling another person that you really trust what your goals are. I think that would be really powerful.
Having a support system.
A support system. We need a support system. I realize with a lot of my clients that when they're isolating is really when they need people the most. So I want to talk about the difference between isolation and alone time.
Explain that.
Alone time is very healthy. Alone time, reading a book, having a cup of tea,
Meditation.
taking a walk on the beach, meditation. Yes, there's all these great apps that you could even use on your phone, 5-10 minutes. Isolation is maybe it's a beautiful day and people you love are calling you and your head is under the blankets and you're not answering to anybody. So often know that when we're isolating is really when we need people the most.
So there's an alone time where you're focusing and centering and giving yourself balance. And then there's isolation.
When we're kind of hiding, when we're dealing with something alone. I think people feel that, I don't want to talk about my problems because I don't want to be a burden. But really, it feels good to help. To be a support to someone, it feels good. It's really a win-win for the giver and the receiver.
Excellent. So we've covered a lot today
Yeah.
going into the new year. If you were to take something to summarize, to leave the viewers with something to get them going, living your life without limits is just that. We want to provide practical, actionable resource tools that people can incorporate in their everyday life. Not just something that's a saying, and we all have sayings and quotes that we use, but something that they can take and put in their basket to have a more successful year. What would that be as we're closing this
I have
out?
a few things I'd like to share.
Please share along.
Okay. I think I really feel that in the morning, what you do first thing in the morning is really important. I think take a deep breath, maybe think about your intention for the day, write it down. A lot of people, first thing they do in the morning is grab their phone. And if the first thing you're doing is grabbing your phone, checking your emails or your text messages, you're immediately living on someone else's agenda, because most likely it's someone wanting something from you, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But give yourself a moment to think about your day. What am I grateful for today? What are my intentions for today? You can practice some affirmations. You need to stretch. You need to move your body. But that's really important, to just give yourself a moment before you go on autopilot. A lot of us are living on autopilot. We got to check in with ourselves first. Give yourself that time in the morning. Maybe have your cup of coffee or your matcha tea or whatever floats your boat. And just give yourself some time to think about your day before you start moving and shaking. And one last thing, too, I want to say is I didn't cover stinking thinking.
Yes.
Those darn negative core beliefs. So
Yes.
stinking thinking, what it basically is are negative thoughts we have about ourselves.
Yes.
And it actually started from AA many years ago, and then it kind of transpired, into other areas of life. And these are negative core beliefs. These are things of not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough. So when you have those negative thoughts, challenge them. What evidence do I have to prove this? It's really important to leave that. We're going to leave that inner critic back in 2019.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I even say if you find yourself doing it, put a little rubber band on your wrist. So when you have that negative thought, you might want to give it a yank, because sometimes we do things on autopilot. We don't even realize we're doing it.
Excellent. Beth, thank you so
You're
much.
so welcome.
For
Thank
your
you.
time, your wisdom, your expertise. Now tell us how, if people want to reach you via personal counseling or coaching sessions for therapy, because you are able to provide that in a more formal way.
Yes.
What's your email address that they can email you to?
Okay. It's B as in boy, S as in Sam, H as in Howard, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, and E as in Easter, bshane716 at AOL.com.
And for those of you that didn't remember that or didn't have a pen or pencil, we're going to have it up at the end of the show, and you'll be able to get that information. I want to thank Beth again for being our special guest for
Thank
this
you for
very
having
first
me.
episode. My sister from another mother. And then I also want to thank you as the listeners and the audience that's tuning in. I want you to come every week and come and play with me, because we got some surprises for you. We're just getting started. We're going to take this journey together with Living Your Life Without Limits. And more is going to be coming. There's going to be some excitement, some things I'm so anxious to tell you. I can't tell you yet, but it's going to be coming. And I want you to log in to all the social media outlets. They're going to be at the end of this podcast. And then I want you to join me on Patreon as a special member, where you're going to get extra things that you don't see on regular outlets for my VIP Patreon people. So on behalf of Living Your Life Without Limits, I am Shannon Jackson, your host with the most, bringing you life, love, and peace. I want you to take care of yourself, love yourself, because guess what? You're worth it.
Yes.
Tune in next Saturday with Living Your Life Without Limits. God bless you all.
Thank you.